welcome to Pedagogically Speaking, the podcast where we're starting a community and we're coming as our authentic selves and we're ready to have a laugh and grow, go on a journey together, if you will. As always, I love getting your emails. Thank you so much. Please continue emailing me at pedagogicallyspeakingpod@gmail.com. I know I keep saying this. I am definitely going to do an episode where I answer your questions. I certainly have more than enough, but I would love to have more. Especially as some of the questions are similar but not the same. So there's a lot of nuance and layering in there. So keep those coming. I am loving getting the feedback. And thanks to everyone who has reached out and said how much they like listening to the podcast. It really means a lot because I'm kind of siloed here and I don't know, I can see I can see that there are actually a lot of people listening on Spotify, and Apple now too has just gone straight through the roof, which is pretty amazing. Thanks so much, and keep sending me your feedback, keep commenting. And if you're able to, please give me a 5-star review on Spotify and a 5-star review on Apple. That'd be great, because it's just going to keep pushing out my content and reaching more people who want this. So thank you so much, everybody. I really, really appreciate it. I'm having so much fun. It's so interesting. If you've ever done, it could be anything. For me, it was my master's. And I was saying to my husband earlier today, I was like, you do this thing for however long it takes you. It took me just over 2 years because I had knee surgery, and I'm not one of those people that can do the work while I'm recovering from something that is big like that. So I took a couple of terms off, and I said, you kind of you do this thing for years. It's hard and you rock it. And you're rocking it while you continue to rock your life. And I'm not saying that everything's perfect. That's not what I think rocking it means. Rocking it just kind of means I've held on to my sanity as much as possible, and probably in the same way I would have whether I was doing my master's or not. Certainly I would say probably the first 2 terms were the hardest for me, just getting into a new routine. But once you kind of have done that, I think it just kind of flows a bit better. At least it did for me. I really enjoyed it and I learned a lot. And it's so funny because you kind of get passionate about the different things that you learn in the different terms. But yeah, no, I was just kind of saying to him, you have this chunk of time where you're really focused on this while you're still working full time and, doing all the stuff that you normally do. And then you're done and you have your master's and you kind of all of a sudden are like, oh, well, now what? Because all of a sudden the life that you led before your master's or whatever big thing you've done, it's not enough anymore. And so I'm loving having this podcast because this is just great. So yeah, I guess if you've ever done anything like a master's or another degree or a grad dip, or maybe you've gotten really into sports or something, let me know because I think it'd be really interesting. Anyway, so today I thought, I keep saying it's the middle of term 2. We're getting close to the end of term 2. And I got to say, thank goodness. So we are 7 weeks into term 2, right? Because we got 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 3 weeks left. And my kid has been sick for 3 of those weeks. So she's not gone. She's gone to school for 4.5 weeks, maybe this whole term so far. And it's wild. She's not doing really great. She's not sick anymore. She's going to go to school on Monday. I tried sending her to school on Wednesday, and then she just ended up coming home in the afternoon, at lunchtime. And I was like, I'm not doing this again. Or maybe that was Thursday. No, it was Wednesday. Anyways, so yeah, it's been a really rough term for my family. My husband's also has been getting sick as well. And it just kind of it rides the crest of the wave with me. I'm taking Buckley's lozenges, but it kind of does enough. Or I'm taking, there's a week I just took Tylenol, just regular Tylenol, because it's acetaminophen. And when you look at cold medicine is acetaminophen, and it was fine for me, and I just kind of trucked on. But it's just it's exhausting, and then going weeks without sleep because obviously your kid's not sleeping as they're sick. So that's definitely was really stressful. It's also just a bit stressful, especially if you're an inclusive education teacher, or maybe probably just any teacher, where you're just like, I'm letting everyone down by like not being at work. And it's not that I necessarily feel guilt, but it's like, it's a thing that I consider because it is difficult when you're like, I have to be home right now. And there's appointments and there's sickness and my kid can't stay home alone. And I'm the only one that's able to do it. But it is still hard. Then you're trying to go into work and you're catching up and you've fallen behind. And especially, I mean, it's report card season. Don't feel guilt about it. I certainly don't. It is just the way of life. But it is a hard thing to kind of recognize. And no one makes me feel guilty. I'm hoping no one makes you feel guilty because they all understand. But, like, it is wild, and it's so funny. I even said to a friend of mine who's also a colleague, and I was just like, "I swear she eats salad." I'm grateful for vaccines because she's vaccinated. We're all vaccinated, and can only imagine how much more sick she would get without the vaccines. It's funny because I feel like I'm talking about the chaos of this term and how much like illness has been has been like chaotic. But I also thought we could talk about the chaos in the classrooms, especially in term two. I think classrooms can be quite chaotic, and maybe yours isn't, and that's great. That's cool. Maybe yours is, and you're not really sure why, and you're trying everything out, and it's not working. Pictures that can turn chaos into calm without the yelling from us. If we're going home with a headache, that's definitely something that's happening to me. If you feel like you're just repeating yourself like 47 times, if you're finding that your class just gets louder the more you talk or the longer you talk, if those transitions are really feeling like a livestock auction, then, I think this is a good episode for you. And this could potentially, it's not that your classroom, you know, isn't too loud. It's probably just a bit too loose. We're maybe just missing that structure. Because I'm sure you've got a great personality and you're vibing with your kids. But really, what creates the calm is those structures. And I mean, good news. It's not like we need to yell more, and we definitely don't need to like analyze our classroom management skills and become stricter. And, it's not like we need to start including behavior charts or anything like that. It's just like tightening up those systems that we're already doing and just making sure that we haven't let them slide because that's usually something that happens in term two. Things slide because you've got like the symphony and you've got swimming and you're going skating and all these things are kind of coming up. And so maybe half your class has been sick, maybe you've been sick. All of these things kind of lead to the structure just kind of diminishing a little bit or taking a backseat. And so I just thought we could talk about structures that can help turn that chaos back into the calm. And there's no shame here because we're all in the same boat. And I want you to just continue to be yourself because you're amazing. So let's just fix that looseness, shall we? All right. So I feel like this is a bit of a double-edged sword for me because I do think part of the lie is that we're told to just build relationships. And of course, that's really important. Like we know so many students that are relationship students and also like relationship students on different levels. So like one kid needs you to be like super funny and like to like give them like look at them exactly when they want you to look at them when they've told a joke that's really just for you, right? Like I've got students like that and that's great. I love it. And then you've got students that like I was talked about in other episodes, like I'm always like, you're so smart. I tell this to all my students because I don't know if they only hear it from me. And just in case I want them to hear it from me every single day that I see them. So I'm always like, you're so smart. You're so smart. This is great. And I'm specific to you, of course. And then you've got, so like, I think one of the newer kinds of relationship building that I have, like seen in the last 2 years as an inclusive education teacher is this like, I'm rooting for you relationship. And so it's like, so I'm like, you can do this. This is great. And then noticing like, you've come to school. Wow. I've seen you every single day this week. This is great. Or like I've seen you've been reading and you've been doing this and I've been talking to a teacher. This is great. This is great. But then the next thing is like proving that I'm rooting for them with the work that I give them, if that makes sense. So like, you're doing so great and I'm giving you this and we'll talk a bit about it. And these are my expectations of you. So like, I'm not giving the lowest expectations. Like or like the lowest level of expectations out of everybody. I'm not giving, I have high standards of you, and this is where I think you're at, and let's find the success there. And yeah, I do have a student that's like that, and that's been like super fun for me to navigate, but also like I keep reflecting on how different that is. Like it's very different that he um wants a specific type of relationship, of a specific type of rooting. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I think it's really hard when we get told to just build relationships, because that's certainly like I got told that. I mean, I've been told that every single year of me of being a teacher, so for the last 16 years, and it has definitely proven true. However, it's not always true. And so another thing that I've learned this year especially is that like when sometimes people will be like, this is a relationship kid, this is a relationship kid. But then there's not that like understanding that it's taken other people years to build a relationship with a student, and you've only been given like, I mean, at the beginning of the year, you've been giving not no time, right, to build that relationship. And I think that that can be really hard, and I think also quite hurtful if you're like, okay, so this is a relationship kid, and I'm being told to build this relationship, and this is the way to build it. But has everyone forgotten that it's taken all of you 1, 2, 4 years to build this relationship? And I think that that can be really tricky and hard to deal with. Like I know I'm finding it hard to deal with, but I think it's also really important to understand that even if you're struggling, one, go to the people with relationships. Do not feel like you're overburdening them, because they want this kid to succeed as well. So please go and ask for their help, ask for any advice, all of these things. I think don't take anything personally. I also think one of the things that I've experienced this year is that I've gotten advice that is contradictory. And it's no one's fault. I think what's happening is sometimes that the like things just change so fast. And so what's good for like maybe even 1 hour isn't good for the like what's good for the morning isn't good for the afternoon. What's good for one thing one day isn't good for the next day. And that flexibility is really, really tricky when you're trying to build a relationship with a student, and maybe like a super tricky student as well. And, I think it can be also really hard. Like, so I've been doing this for 16 years. And if you're new, a lot of the times new teachers are told, like, if you build the relationships, then the behavior will disappear. And, you know, yes, relationships absolutely matter. But relationships without structure really do create anxiety. Um, and if you think about that, I'm just going to talk a bit about like meetings, which we all hate. But I think even worse, like, have you ever been to a meeting with no agenda? And maybe not your staff meeting, maybe your staff meetings have agendas. But I certainly have been to meetings without agendas, and everyone's talking, and there's no direction, and there's no time boundaries. And, that's not connection. That's not building connection. That's more akin to chaos. And so kids don't feel safer when you're only warm and inviting. They feel safer when they know what's happening, what's expected, and like they can anticipate what's going to happen next, because they absolutely know what's going on. So they also feel safer. Students also feel safer when they know what's going to happen if they don't follow through with something. So you're probably wondering, like, yeah, why are you telling me this? Because I'm telling you this because it's term 2, and I think we're all letting things slide. And it's just a reminder that if you're warm but things are unclear, your room will absolutely feel busy and loud, you know? And just kind of remembering that clarity creates calm. And if it's one of those things where you're just like, yeah, but I do have all of this stuff happening. I always just think in the morning being like, okay, so this is what the day is going to look like today, because we have, X, Y, activities that are out of, our usual timetable. So like, what are the things that we can do? And that really kind of comes down to two as well. Like, so the episode with Morgan Michael, where she kind of talks about how like the beginning of the day is kind of like a soft start, right? Like, so everyone's kind of coming in, the reading, and then you do like a team talk. And that could be part of your team talk. Like, okay, so today there's the symphony, and then an assembly at the end of the day, or pink shirt day's coming up. What does that mean? And I think just like being really, really honest about that and providing that clarity. And so making sure students understand what's coming next and like what the transitions are and what they look like. So like, did you need to move snack time to before recess, because after recess, like you guys have to board a bus, just kind of things like that. And then I think like making sure you do give the space too for all those things. So like, don't not give the snack time, because the students expect it and need it as well, right? Like, so making sure that you're honoring all of those parts of your schedule and just being super clear. And yeah, I want to be like, and then rolling with it, but it's kind of like, it's a tricky time of year, because there's also like, increased fire drills or lockdown drills or earthquake drills. I was like, what's that third one? I always forget. Um, and then sometimes you prepare for a fire drill and then you get told at announcements it's not happening, but that's okay, because then it's just like, okay, so we've just learned that's not happening. Let's go over what the schedule is going to look like now. Do you know what I mean? And just kind of like just that honesty and that clarity really helps to bring that security, because structure really does equal safety. Um, and I think like one of the things that's really happening in these loud classrooms is that like ambiguity piece. Um, and kids asking, when do I start? And like, what do I do? When do I start? When do I do first? Is this right? Is this right? Are we done? Can I move on? I'm done. Do I have to do this? Is this optional? Um, and it's just like, when they don't have those answers, like if those like have been front loaded, then students are automatically just testing you. And obviously we know there's no bad kids, not because they're bad or anything. It's just because they're absolutely unsure. And that comes across too when they're just unsure about everything, right? So if there's just been so much going on and they're already unsure, then it also like filters into how they're reacting, like when you give them lessons or tasks or assignments or quizzes, things like that, right? Because when we can put in that structure again, have that clarity, have that structure, then that uncertainty is removed. And uncertainty really is what fuels noise, right? Like when you think about it, um, when you have those students that don't know what they're doing, you know, like if they have executive functioning challenges and they don't know what they're doing, or if they really just like they haven't been listening for whatever reason, they don't know what they're doing, they're going to start talking. They're like, this is unstructured time. Excellent. I'm going to start talking to you. I'm bored. I don't know what's going on. Do you know what's going on? Did you see the latest insert title here of movie or TV show, right? And so I think like, I know that there's definitely like five structures that I love, that I find successful with my classroom and my students, and one of them I've talked about before, we've talked about with Morgan, I talked about it before in this episode even. It's just like a locked in entry routine, and students just like knowing exactly what happens when they walk in. So my colleague, who's a grade 5 teacher, they have their students go in, there's a coat room, only allowed a certain amount of students in that coat room. You can still be in the line, you can be talking quietly while you wait for the coat room. If you don't need the coat room, you can go to your desk. Either you've been assigned a desk where you can sit where you want. um and then their soft start is reading. um I know other, I worked at this school. I loved it. Every classroom soft start was art. So, and what I mean by that is they would place something in the middle of the carpet or the middle of the room, and all the students, the teacher bought them, I hope using class ones, sketchbooks. And they'd all get their sketch pencil, their sketchbooks, and they'd look. And one time it was just egg beaters, those old school ones where you like crank it, the beaters. And it was really interesting because one, it's like super cool to see it from the beginning of the school year to the end of the school year. And yes, of course, you're going to have kids that don't have buy-in to it. But honestly, when it's just part of the routine, everyone does it. And then like in term two, there would be prompts like, did you notice this part? Did you notice this part? And the students that were really into it, the teacher would be like, now move like 6 bum scooches over or 6 chairs over and draw it again, and what do you see that's different? And so I thought that was a really interesting soft start. Another teacher would let caregivers or parents come in and do reading with their students. There's so many different soft starts that you can do. And maybe you don't. Well, I mean, I was going to say maybe you don't do a soft start. I always think it's a good idea. But another teacher that I've talked about before also had on her door where it's like, you need your water bottle, your pencil, and your book at your desk as soon as you walk in. That's what needs to happen. So they knew it. One, they knew it as a routine. And two, it was written down and there were pictures, like all the visuals, so good. So yeah, I think students really do need to know exactly what happens when they walk in. That way they're not asking, they're not floating. They're not just standing around. I don't know what to do, miss. I don't know what to do, sir. I don't know what to do. So I think that's really important. I think also really like ensuring that you have those clear transition cues is super important. Like I'm not a big sorry. I'm really not a big fan of the saying, okay, settle everybody, settle. It's like, settle what? What does that mean? I don't know what that means. But I think have an absolutely consistent phrase, have a timer, and have that visible expectation. If you don't have one of those timer clocks, like I've said before, just get your marker, mark off the 5 to 7 minutes you think it takes for the transition so that they can understand that and be like, we're ready to go now. You need to be ready to go. You understand how this works. Um, I also think brain breaks are great. If you I love the ones that are cards or popsicle sticks. Make sure you're um, what does this mean? Make sure you're swapping them out, right? So that it's not the same ones all the time. But you really should just make sure that you have an independent work protocol and it's written down somewhere. You guys have gone over it. You've all agreed on it. I think that's really important, making sure that students understand it, understand why, and have buy-in because they've said, yes, this is what it should sound like, look like, feel like, all that stuff. And making sure that they know what silent work actually does look like. How do they move forward if they do get stuck? And who can they talk to? I really, really believe in leaders. I've had math leaders, reader leaders, writing leaders, you know what I mean? So I think that's really important. And I think it's also number 4 would be a help system. Like, um, how do they let you know that they need help? Do they raise their hand? Do they come to you? I've known so many people that have 3 clothes pegs. And so if those ones are gone, you get a clothes peg, you need help so the teacher knows to find you. Do you'd use cards, like a red card or a help board? And because I just think if the help isn't structured, then students will just call out, call out, call out. And so just making sure that that's another area that you can really structure with these students. And yes, it does take time, but it also is it's nice not hearing that nagging kind of sound. And it's nice not having 3, I feel sometimes maybe not an octopus because it's only three, but like you'll kind of have a line forming and you're like, okay, that's manageable. I'm not going to say anything. And then all of a sudden another line forms and then kids start coming from the front because those lines are full. And that's when I was like, oh, I really need a help system in place because I cannot have 18 out of 28 kids lined up by me waiting for something that do they even need it. And so part of that, like, part of number 4, like creating that help system is also going through with your students, like, what does help actually mean? Right? Like, and I do this too to varying levels of success is like, what does done mean? Done means like, you've finished something, you've read it to yourself out loud, like quietly out loud, because in their head doesn't count. They read it how they want to read it. They actually have to read it out loud. You've checked for your basic, like I'm going with writing, but like your basic punctuation, like everything, every beginning starts with a capital, every I for like I is capitalized, and everything, every sentence ends with some kind of, a period or an exclamation mark or a question mark. And then so when inevitably they come and they're like, I'm done. I say, have you done these things? Yes. I can see you haven't because I can see just from here 3 things that's on that list and the list on your desk that you have to do before you can tell anyone you're done. And so it's the same thing with like the help system. Like, okay, do you need help? Do you just not know this? Can you ask the person next to you? Can you ask the leader? Um, or if it's a real problem, then this is the protocol that you've done, right? I actually like the closed pegs thing. I should do that again. And then just as you like, these are things I know you're already probably doing. Maybe you just needed a reminder to tighten them up. And this last one for number 5 is the exit routine. So how does the class end? Do you use exit tickets? Do you do like what you knew and what you didn't know? Do you do an elbow partner turn and talk? This is what I learned. This is a question that I've got. Like, because if the ending is loose, then the energy absolutely explodes, right? And structure really shrinks that volume. And so, like, those would be the 5 things that I would say. Make sure that those are like, that you're super structured with them and that you're following your own protocols. And if there's some of these that you haven't done yet, start implementing them, work them out with your students, just like you would do with like your class rules. Have the students like work on it together, write it down somewhere, everyone agrees, and then just start kind of like reminding them. And then you've kind of got it in place, because then you will have the students that'll be like, you're supposed to do this. And it's like, oh yeah, okay, that's great. So yeah, just like number 1, make sure you have a locked in entry routine. Number 2, make sure you've got clear transition cues. Number 3, make sure you've got like an independent work protocol. Number 4, make sure your help system is pretty tight. So like, are they raising their hand? What do they know how to like get the help? Is it structured? And then 5, the exit routine. So I was just thinking, like, how can we get back to it? Like, I've identified that some of my stuff is very messy right now, and so the volume is quite high. And so I think if your room feels really wild right now, like, don't overhaul everything. Don't like start creating new things like we clearly need new rules because no one's following the rules. It's like, no, let's just do a reset. Let's just do a reset. And so I was just thinking, like, even just starting tomorrow, just saying like, hey, like, I don't know, do you use the division number or your room number? Do you like say team, like, just like, hey, team, we're going to be tightening things up because I've noticed that it's gotten a bit much recently, and I really just want our classroom to feel calmer and easier, so Not saying that they've been disrespectful or anything, just we're going to be, tightening things up because I want our classroom to feel calmer and easier. And then, you know what? Teach the entry routine or go over it again if you've already got one. Model it, practice it. And I think I find it very interesting to time it. And then you know how long it should take, right? Making sure that we're going over those transitions. So, what does the transition look like in 10 seconds? What are we looking for? How is this going? Making sure we're teaching that independent work posture, right? Like, so your feet are under your desk. Maybe they've got those um, bicycle tires, like the ones where so it's like rubber. Maybe they got like an elastic band or whatever under their desk so they can help have their feet going down. But what does that independent work posture look like? Feet under the desk, eyes down. Do you say voice off, or do you say, how do you help the students kind of navigate their sound? Their voices and the volume of their voices, right? And I know some people love the visual where it's like things popping up and down, whatever. But I think absolutely just teach it or reteach it, go over it, and just practice it like it's content, right? Like practice it like it's the multiplication tables. And absolutely man, narrate those wins. I love talking about wins. I think wins are the absolute best. So I can see the 3 tables already. This is great. You know what I mean? Because that calm, building it and wanting it and succeeding in that calm with 28 students or however many students you have, that's absolutely built in reps. And it's not built in speeches. Whoa, look, we got together. Wasn't that great? Wow, you did that in 2 minutes or 5 minutes. Wow, everyone's got everything they need. I can see everybody has, their pencils. This is great, right? Celebrate those wins, because the wins is going to be what pushes everything forward, and it's not going to be the speeches. Yeah. And so I think also have a script. We give social stories to students, and we help students with scripts on how to navigate school or friendships or different things. And I think this is exactly a time when teachers should have a script, because also when the rooms are loose, when everything's chaotic and loud and dirty and smelly, we escalate as teachers. And so let's just tighten the language up, so instead of saying, "Why are you talking?" I always like to say, "Oh, independent work time, voices off," or "We're at number 1 for voices," whatever it is that you say that helps the students understand that. But yeah, I'm always independent work time. um, and I think instead of saying how many times do I have to say this? And I'm not judging you. These are things that I've heard myself say the last couple of weeks. So that's why I've come up with these. So instead of saying that, I'm starting to say reset, we're having a reset. I need everyone to show me ready, so reset, show me ready. Instead of stop, say later, right now we're blank. Okay. So yeah, instead of this is ridiculous, you're going to say our expectation is, right? We've talked about this. It's independent work time. The expectation is whatever that expectation is that you have set up with everybody, okay? Because we really want that language that points to the system to keep it neutral, okay? We want neutral language. We're just pointing to the system, okay? We're not getting frustrated or flustered. We're taking a breath. Take a breath. I love a breath. Take a beat, if you will. And then just use that neutral language, because the moment that it becomes personal, it becomes emotional, and then you are taking it personally. And I do not want that for you. Okay. None of us deserve to take this personally, because it's not. Okay. And just remember, the systems absolutely reduce the emotion. But the emotion does raise the volume. So let's just remember we're at school. This is what we're doing. These are the expectations that we've all agreed on. Okay. And so I think if after all of that, when it still feels wild, what does that really mean? And so if you follow kind of like if you've done what I'm doing and you've tightened up all your structures and it's still feeling loud, is the room dysregulated? And just remember that like dysregulation is not solved by control. It's solved by co-regulation. Okay? And so that can be like, hey, so let's say you've tightened everything up, you've gone over all of that stuff. You've got the students that are like, yeah, I remember, that's great. You've got your visuals up. Everyone knows what to do in all the different scenarios. And it's loud and you can feel yourself heightening because they're heightened, because it's loud, because they're dysregulated. Take that breath. And I know this is hard because this can be vulnerable. And just say, I'm feeling really blank. I'm feeling really frustrated right now. It's really loud in here. I'm not able to help this student. I mean, you could use their name because you'll be in the classroom. And I don't know what to do about it. What are we thinking? Do we need a break? Right? And then just think like, are they sitting too much? Maybe there haven't been movement breaks. Maybe these students are in a bit of a cognitive overload right now, you know? Maybe there's, like, what do they say, like, after recess? Like, there's social spillover and there's just a lot of drama that's happening. Maybe it is some unclear task difficulty. And so, what could you do in your classroom to do a physical reset? Like, do you go outside and let them run around? Do they go to the playground for 5 minutes? Do you walk around the school? What's something that all of you can do where you can all get that kind of physical reset? Come back into the classroom and think, okay, is this behavior or is this like nervous system? And then just adjust, right? Like, it's okay to adjust. It's okay to pivot. I've tried everything. We're still here. Okay. So you know what? It's not the structure anymore because I've fixed all of that. So we're dysregulated. Okay. I'm going to add movement. I'm shortening the work blocks right now. And we're going to be doing 10 minutes of work and then a break and then 10 minutes of work and a break or whatever it looks like to you. Maybe it's 4 minutes. Shorten those work blocks. Make sure every single instruction is chunked. Make sure the end product is somewhere visible, on your board or you've got it projected somewhere. And then just pre-correct before those transitions, right? Like front load all that information. Because we really do want to have a structured room with regulated nervous systems because that's chef's kiss of calm. And is it easy? No. Does it happen all the time? Absolutely not. But if we can identify, hey, it can't be the structure, it must be dysregulation, then you can pivot and then you can say, what do I think they need? Or work, if they're old enough, work with them. What do we need? We need to be outside right now. Okay. Can you do a lesson outside? It's windy, it's raining. Maybe it's not where you are. Maybe you're actually having a pretty decent day. Maybe you could let them do some reading outside. If it's possible, it might not be, but what are the things that are within your locus of control that you can help co-regulate with these students? So, yeah, I think just in closing from me, I just really don't want you to blame yourself. I really want you to remember that you're great at teaching and you're wonderful and it's hard. And I really appreciate you doing the best that you can because it is wonderful to have you teaching and these kids really need you. And, don't worry about becoming harsher. Don't think that the reason that that the classroom's a bit chaotic is because of you or because you're not hard enough on the students or anything. You don't need to become harsher. You don't need to be louder. Let's just tighten up those routines. Let's try to remember that like warmth and structure does equal like a calm authority. They will understand that they already know you're an authority figure. You don't need to remind them, but like when you have that structure plus the warmth, then they understand that you're a calm authority. Um, and yeah, I hope that this episode helped you and called you in because, I just want us to work together and have kindness and find joy when we can. And if you need to, please use the reset tomorrow. I know I will be resetting again. And yeah, and if you knew this, then I hope that this was just a reminder that you're doing great and there's lots, then we can keep trying. So thanks so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you listening, and I will talk to you next Thursday. And again, please email me pedagogicallyspeakingpod@gmail.com. I love hearing from you. I hope you have a great day.